Hey everyone, Minutia Minute here. Excited to share what happened this week in Batman with you guys. Today's going to be a little bit of a different day for me because I actually have to start my day running to the auto body shop to get an estimate on my car due to something that happened a couple of weeks ago. Bringing some reading material with me though, so I'm excited. I'm working on catching up on Fear State. I have been working through the next Batman, which I'm just working through a couple of the supporting stories, which are laid out really weird, by the way, because they continue through um, like issue one and issue three will have a story, and then issue two and issue four will have a story. Pretty weird, but anyway. So I'm leaving those at home, and I'm bringing some of these other books with me to see what else Future State has to offer. After all of my talk about not knowing what happened in Future State, hopefully today I'll finally be able to catch up. Afterwards, I'm going to hit the comic book shop and I'll come at you guys with this week's comic reviews. So, what actually happened to me was I was driving to work and a deer hit my car. No, I did not hit a deer. A deer hit my car, ran directly into the driver's side front fender, and he spun around while I was driving down the road. His butt stomped my door, which that's a big butt print right there. So damage actually isn't terrible, except for the fact that the door doesn't open correctly, but everything else was fine. I was okay, so I guess that's the good news. Ah yes, another beautiful 9-degree day in Minnesota. So just got out of the estimate, so that's exciting. Now I get to have my repair scheduled, which with all the labor shortage and everything going on, isn't going to be until February 9th. So just for full reference, my accident happened the beginning of November. It took over a month to get an estimate, and then it's going to take another 2 months to get it in for repair. One of the things that has me worried is I'm going to get it in there and there's going to be a part that they're not going to be able to get for weeks and weeks. But he's pretty confident that since I'm driving an older vehicle and I'm willing to use aftermarket parts, that it's not going to be a problem. So I guess I'll take that as a win. Anyway, now on to my LCS to see if they've still got some books left for me. Alright guys, as promised, it's time to find out what happened this week in Batman. So I picked up almost everything this week. I did not get Arkham City Order of the World. Other than that, I think I got everything. So, well, last week was like nuclear bomb going off in terms of Batman titles and DC in general. This week was a lot lighter for me anyway. As far as reviews, there's actually only going to be one, which is Batman 118. I actually picked up a second cover of this, which I almost never do. I think that the cover A on this is fantastic, and a lot of the cover A's for this Abyss arc are looking fantastic. But I did really enjoy the throwback sort of 90s Batman cover done in the style of Todd McFarlane and Spider-Man, which was kind of a weird combination. I don't know, the cover was just kooky and weird and awesome, so I picked it up. To be honest, if they were to make all of their variant covers just month to month rather than the quasi-virgin art with just like the little name of the book kind of close to the spine, and they switched to something like this, I would get the variant covers every week, to be honest. I just switched to variant covers overall because I really love this sort of retro aesthetic, more so than how DC formats their covers now. Anyway, if you're interested in non-continuity, there's plenty of stuff out there. I was originally under the impression that The Adventures Continue was going to get an issue this week, but I guess that's actually coming next week. But we still got Batman 89, issue number 4, which has been a long time coming, I feel like. It's been a while since a new one of these came out, and I'm really excited to dig into this one. This has been a fun series to read. We also got The Joker Presents a Puzzle Box, which is Matthew Rosenberg's Joker spin-off. I'm a couple issues behind on this. I definitely need to go through and finish it up. So I'm just going to pick up the last couple issues, however many, I'm assuming there's 6 issues total, and then I'll give them all a read, and maybe I'll give you my thoughts at that point on it. I'm guessing this is going to be one that's going to be better experienced in more of a trade format anyway, because the plot is kind of complicated. All right, and then last but certainly not least, a book that a lot of people have been talking about very positively. I have not read the first issue, but I'm definitely on board for this book, and I'm excited to see where it goes. I think I'm going to let a few issues go through before I actually sit down and start reading it, just because I want to be able to sit in this world for a little bit. And that is Dark Knights of Steel. This is issue number 2, written by Tom Taylor. Gorgeous artwork by Yasmin Putri. Hope I'm saying that name correctly. But yeah, definitely a book I'm excited to dig into. I kind of learned from my 1602 experience back in the day that sometimes these more kind of period takes on characters can be better absorbed if you read more than just one issue at a time, because there's just a lot of world building that has to go into it before you can really enjoy it. But with that, let's take a look at issue 118 and see what happened this week in Batman. So I don't know how much you guys knew about this story going in. I avoided anything other than just seeing the covers, really. But this was a solid read, in my opinion. If you've been sleeping on Batman and been looking for a good place to hop on, this is a really potentially very intriguing place to do it. So basically, the book opens largely kind of mired in the aftermath of Fear State. So like Batman's looking on while Gotham is celebrating. They've had this moment of peace. Finally, after basically the entirety of James Tynion's run, because he never let up, there was always something crazy going on, which they kind of talk about. But part of what's great about this is they open the story with sort of a classic Batman moment, where these two burglars are breaking into a pawn shop. They look up, they think they see a gargoyle, and then they suddenly realize, nope, that's Batman. And they run off, basically turn themselves into the police because they're really just trying to avoid a beating, which is great. It was very Batman 1989, actually, the way they play it off and the way the criminals kind of banter with each other, which was just a really fun opening to the book. As the book continues on, basically it kind of recaps some of the things that's happened in Fear State. He has some good dialogue with Oracle, who's kind of trying to get him to relax. And then, of course, just when it seems like it's going to be a quiet night in Gotham, they find out that at the Billionaires' Ball, there are mercenaries that are coming to basically rob the place. And part of what's fun about this sequence is the theme of the Billionaires' Ball is Gotham villains, which is fantastic. So basically, everyone dresses up like a villain, including Batman, and you're kind of trying to figure out who's who and what's going on as you have this kind of big throwdown between all these sort of average gangster thug types, but all dressed and equipped as main Batman villains. And of course, the irony of, Gotham's elite dressing like criminals and sort of having this misguided view of the celebrity of villainy is not lost on the book. And there's even a moment where a little girl dressed up like Punchline asks for Batman's autograph, which is kind of a great little moment as well. So as I said, majority of the book basically boils down to setup for Batman to head to Europe, which I didn't really understand what the context of that was going to be, just that he was going to be going. And it turns out that it's because a bunch of members of Batman Incorporated, aka in this case the Club of Heroes, have been arrested. So Joshua Williamson ends up bringing back in a lot of Grant Morrison era Batman stuff in this, which is pretty cool. And actually, when Batman is out in Europe, he dresses in the Batman Incorporated outfit as well, which was pretty cool to see. And of course, that's why he's dressed like that on the cover too. Now, another thing I didn't know about this book is that I thought the Abyss was going to be this new villain that Batman was going to be up against, and maybe as the story continues, that will be the case. But what actually is going on is he's investigating who killed Abyss. Abyss is someone who's been terrorizing this nation over a period of time. The Club of Heroes shows up and kills Abyss, which is why they've been arrested. And now Batman is left trying to put the pieces together. He meets up with a detective who at first threatens to arrest him, but then sort of realizes she needs his help. And then the book answers one really big question, which is, if Batman is no longer a billionaire, how is Batman Incorporated funded? And he basically insinuates that it's been dissolved. But then at the end of the book, you find out a great twist, which is that Lex Luthor now is running Batman Incorporated. Which, what a great twist. Like, I love that we got back to some of this Grant Morrison stuff. I am actually not the biggest fan of Grant Morrison's run on Batman overall, but like you can't diminish the effects of what he did. Like there's so many plot threads that have been pulled and played with since he left Batman, and so seeing some of this come back around is just super welcome. And I think what better direction for Batman Incorporated to go than into the hands of Lex Luthor and have it become potentially like a corrupted entity. So this book did not disappoint. It does feel like a more intimate story with Batman, Barbara Gordon. You've got a great murder mystery in here that's very intriguing, promises that Batman's going to use some of his detective skills, but then also some pretty big revelations in terms of Batman Incorporated and Lex Luthor. So I have to say this book, like hands down, probably my favorite issue of the main ongoing Batman series since Infinite Frontiers launched, to be honest. So high praise from me. I do recommend you check it out. Great art by Jorge Molina. Fantastic writing by Joshua Williamson. If you've been sleeping on Batman, this might be a good place to hop on. Very intriguing stuff and well worth your time. But with that, I hope you guys enjoyed exploring This Week in Batman with me. I will be back next week, of course, with more This Week in Batman. In the meantime, I hope you guys have a great week in comics. Thanks for watching.